Question number 14. Discuss three processes of access control mechanism when a user requests for resources. See, access control mechanism is nothing but there are three processes that are identification, authorization, and authentication. So again, authorization has two approaches: list oriented approaches and ticket oriented approach. A ticket oriented approach, one is a row approach and another one is column approach. In list oriented approach, there are list of users who are eligible to access the resources. Check once. It's already told, right? Is associated access control mechanism is associated with identification of the authentication users. The mechanism processes the user's request for real-time memory and virtual memory resources in three steps. One is identification. First and foremost, the users have to identify themselves. Authentication. Secondly, the users must authenticate themselves and the mechanism must authenticate itself. The mechanism accesses previously stored information about users, the resources they can access, and the action privileges they have with respect to these resources. It then permits or denies the request. Users may provide for four factors of authentication information as described below. Remembered information, object processed by the user, personal characteristics, dialogue, name, account number, password, badge, plastic, fingerprint, voice print, signature, through authorization. Third, the user's request for specific resources, their need for those resources and their areas of usage of these resources. There are two approaches to implementing the authorization modules in an access control mechanism. One is ticket-oriented approach and a list-oriented approach. Considering the authorization function in terms of matrix, where rows represents the users and the columns represents the resources, and the element represents the users privileged on the resources, we can see distinction between these two approaches. Ticket-oriented approaches to authorization, the access control mechanism assigns users a ticket for each resource they are permitted to access. Ticket-oriented approach operates via row in the matrix. Each row along with the user resource holds the action privilege specific to that user. In a list-oriented approach, the mechanism associates with each resource a list of users who can access the resource and the action privilege that each user has with respect to the resource. This mechanism operates via column in the matrix.